विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol.
Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Tirabhav Mahamahotsav Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for everyone for attending today's festival, the Disappearance Day of Srila Prabhupada. Just to let you all know that today's program will be continuing with offerings. So first I'll do a quick reading of the offerings by Prabhupada's disciples, the GBC. Then we'll be expecting His Grace Bhavananda Prabhu to come and speak and share with us a bit about Srila Prabhupada. And then after that, we'll be asking devotees to come forward and share their offerings and realizations, followed by the Bhog offering. Then we'll have Pushpanjali and then Guru Puja. And we expect to finish this program by 12:30, the latest 1 o'clock. Okay, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he mentions, he reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy name around. So this very nicely summarizes or glorifies our Srila Prabhupada, because Prabhupada's whole existence was dedicated to serving the mission of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in preaching Krishna consciousness throughout the Western world and using whatever money he had in printing books. So I'll read a quick excerpt from Lilamrita. Just a small excerpt that I thought I could share about Srila Prabhupada's mood of preaching. This is in the beginning days of 1966. Prabhupada just moved into the Matchless Gift storefront. And here, Satsvarup Goswami Maharaj writes, Prabhupada was still a solitary preacher, free to stay or go, writing his books in his own intimate relationship with Krishna, quite independent of the boys in the storefront. But now he had taken the International Society for Krishna Consciousness as his spiritual child. The inquiring young men, some of whom had already been chanting steadily for over a month, were like stumbling spiritual infants, and he felt responsible for guiding them. They were beginning to consider him their spiritual master, trusting him to lead them into spiritual life. Although they were unable to immediately follow the multifarious rules that Brahmanas and Vaishnavas in India followed, he was hopeful. According to Rupa Goswami, the most important principle was that one should somehow or other become Krishna conscious. People should chant Hare Krishna and render devotional service. They should engage whatever they had in the service of Krishna. And Prabhupada was exercising this basic principle of Krishna consciousness to the furthest limit the history of Vaishnavism had ever seen. Although he is engaging the boys in cooking and typing, Prabhupada was not doing any less himself. Rather, for every sincere soul that came forward to ask for service, 100 came who wanted not to serve but to challenge. Speaking to them, sometimes shouting and pounding his fists, Prabhupada defended Krishna against the Mayavad philosophy. This was also his service to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He had not come to America to retire. So with the passing of each new day came another confirmation of that his work and his followers and his challenges would only increase. Now here's a few things Prabhupada had to deal with in the storefront. So once, this is, I just read from your ever well-wisher, but if you read from Prabhupada's Leelamrit, there's a bit more details of who he dealt with, who were the challenges that he met. So once a young hippie on an LSD trip found his way upstairs and sat opposite the Swami. Right now I am higher than you are, he announced. I am God. Prabhupada bowed his head slightly, his palms folded. Please accept my obeisances, he said. Then he asked God to please leave. Others admitted frankly that they were crazy or haunted by ghosts and sought relief from their mental suffering. Often there were challenges, but under Swami's stare and hard logic, the challenger would usually trail off into thoughtful silence. This is another challenger. Is the spiritual knowledge of China advanced? Prabhupada sometimes answers simply by making a sour face. Well, I am a follower, another person. Well, I am a follower of Vedanta myself. Prabhupada, do you know what Vedanta means? What is the first aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra? Do you know? The challenger, no, I. Prabhupada, then how can you speak of Vedanta? Vedesha sarvair aham eva vedya. Krishna says that he is the goal of Vedanta. If you are a Vedantist, then you must become Krishna conscious. The challenger, what about the Buddha? Prabhupada, do you follow him? The challenger, no. Prabhupada, no, you just talk. Why don't you follow? Follow Krishna, follow Christ, follow Buddha. But don't just talk. Although Prabhupada was a stranger to America, they were strangers to absolute knowledge. Whenever anyone would come to see him, he wouldn't waste time. He talked philosophy, reason, and argument. He constantly argued against atheism and impersonalism. He spoke strongly to prove the existence of God and the universality of Krishna consciousness. He talked often and vigorously, day and night, meeting all kinds of questions and philosophies. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so we'll begin with the offerings. I'll read out Ramai Maharaj's and Devamrita Swami Maharaj's offerings. There are 2 GBCs, and then I'll ask devotees to come forward and give their offerings. Once Bhavananda Prabhu comes, we'll hand it over to him. Okay, so this is an offering from from Ramai, His Holiness Ramai Swami. Maharaj offered this during Prabhupada's Vyas Puja this year. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatti Deshatharine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at His lotus feet. Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Deva and delivering the Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Srila Prabhupada, in one purport from Bhagavad Gita you wrote, there are 2 classes of men. Some of them are full of polluted material things within their heart, and some of them are materially free. Krishna consciousness is equally beneficial for both of those persons. Those who are full of dirty things can take to the line of Krishna consciousness for a gradual cleansing process following the regulative principles of devotional service. Those who are already cleansed of the impurities may continue to act in the same Krishna consciousness so that others may follow their exemplary activities and thereby be benefited. I am very fortunate that Krishna consciousness is beneficial for both types of people because I am definitely in the category of many polluted things in the heart. By your mercy, I have been engaged in the process of Krishna consciousness, and someday I may come to the level of being freed from impurities. In fact, at my initiation, you said that all the new disciples should become pure as quickly as possible. Krishna is pavitram, pure, and to associate with him nicely, we should be of the same spiritual nature. I am still endeavoring, Srila Prabhupada, but sometimes I stumble. Please help me to become 100% completely fixed in devotional service to the Lord. Please help me stay on the path without any mind wandering to other places. As Lord Chaitanya says, let me taste the real nectar for which we are always anchoring for. Here in New Govardhan, every Ekadasi, the devotees see and listen to your lectures on a screen in the temple room. How wonderful and how powerful they are. Your words cut through Maya like a hot knife going through butter. How learned you are. You quote continuously from many different shastras to emphasize your points in an authorized manner. How compassionate you are. Patiently you explain everything clearly in a constructive way to uplift people in the transcendental position. If I could be 1/10,000th like you, I am sure I would advance rapidly in my Krishna consciousness. But I know I am not even that. For me, advancement is slow. However, I have faith that if I hold on to your lotus feet and associate nicely with devotees in ISKCON, ultimately I will go back home, back to Godhead. Or being purified, I'll get an opportunity to serve you and the Lord again in this material world. Both ways will be perfection for me. Maharaj now offers a poem. A life of virtuous thought and deed, the lives of others he did exceed. From whom, my brother, shall I hear those words which ever charmed my ear? No one like Srila Prabhupada shall be, a wonderful guiding light for me. He of high and noble mind, gentle, modest, meek and kind. Ignorant we were and foolish youth, we clung to him for constant truth, yearning to stay by his holy side, to hear instructions that were bona fide. Sacred texts presented clear and pure, an offering that shall always endure. Continuously spoke and ready to give knowledge of where we eternally live. Devotional service with its every limb, brilliantly taught and explained by him. Like a king with a wondrous bow, he drove away Maya and made us glow. Filled my heart with nectar so high, began to feel bliss, even a fool as I. The more he gave, the more I drank. For this kind mercy I forever thank. Srila Prabhupada is my only hope, without whom I could never cope. With suppliant hands and reverent head, I must always remember what he said. He is dearer to me than light and life. My existence before was only strife. Please, Srila Prabhupada, always show the way to someone like me who goes astray. The next offering is by His Holiness Devamrita Swami Maharaj. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my deeply considered and most respectful obeisances at your lotus feet. We glorify you for delivering the Western world from impersonalism and voidism. Yet you set in motion another extraordinary mission impossible. You dared present to the ignoble West what is real civilization. Exposing the primitiveness, you boldly taught the essential precepts and norms of real human life. Otherwise, how would the developed world ever know the actual human standard? This inheritance you passed on to us still remains intact. Despite the usual erosive effect of time, constantly we ponder and deliberate the underlying themes you propounded. How to execute your desires is our life and soul. You sought to redefine what is genuine social progress and advancement. So Maharaj has given an excerpt from a morning walk or a conversation. Srila Prabhupada, so they have mentioned, quote, American Hindus, quote, it is a dead blow to the material civilization. No drinking and no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex. Their whole civilization is finished because they stand on these things, 4 pillars. Devotee, therefore we must present a better civilization. Srila Prabhupada. Devotee, we must present a better civilization. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, not better or best, the civilization. 5 decades ago in the Wild West, despite pandemic hippiness, makeshift notions of crude moral culture and social cohesion prevailed. But today's version of society posing as civilized is, on a mass scale, in many ways more barbarous and dangerous. Your aging disciples can observe that even the primitive social mores and quasi-cultural attributes prevailing during our youth are in shreds, to the extent that comparatively the 60s and 70s can seem like Dwapara Yuga. During your days with us, thousands of refugees from the Neanderthal West flocked to your mission, but in India, in the land of Dharma and Krishna, scant jivas back then took shelter of your mission. Today the situation has dramatically reversed. We can observe that aspects of the social terrain, the context, the milieu, do change over time, but the quintessential process you gave us for watering the bhakti sprouts, creepers and trees remains as inconceivably effective as ever. Early in 1977, you stated that the time would come when people would applaud your mission for having saved humanity in its most dire hour. Darkening the sky, the dreadful storm clouds of new viruses, environmental havoc, and nuclear warfare threatened the entire planet. Nevertheless, the life-sustaining bhakti seeds you planted and nurtured continue to grow. By your fulfilling the desire of Mahaprabhu, what you granted the critically tormented world successfully persists as humanity's genuine hope and rescue. Your lowly servant, Demarita Swami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Is everyone okay? Can we turn off the fan, or would you like to keep it on? You're feeling it's okay? Just turn it off. You can turn it off. Okay, so that's the offerings of our GBC. Now, we're expected to have Bhavananda Prabhu come here in a couple of minutes, 5-10 minutes. So, if anyone would like to come forward and share realization or offering, you can please do come forward. Anyone can come forward. Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances, and to all the devotees, please accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. I wasn't prepared, but this morning I just came for darshan, and I was, when Prabhu said, like, you have opportunity to read the offering, I was just on top of the moon, because that's the best thing I would always want to do, glorifying Srila Prabhupada. Just sharing a little bit that I've written this morning for him, and so my dear Dadu, your lotus feet is my spiritual world. This is my favorite service and favorite time of the day, putting Srila Prabhupada to bed. Sorry, I'll just hold the mic. This is my favorite service and favorite time of the day, putting Srila Prabhupada to sleep. And now, it became many kids' favorite too, including Rupa. Dear Dadu, you are the only one I love more than anyone and anything in my life. Seeing you when my heart melted, when I was only 7, that's when I learned to love. On your disappearance day, all I want to say is that I try to understand the depth of your love, which is beyond my thought and intelligence, that how you not being in Bapu form for this world, all I feel is you live with me. And he's talking to me every day and answering all my questions and solving every doubts and problems and blessing me. If you say you won't be in a spiritual world and are in the mission to preach some other planet, and by your mercy, I am asked to go to Goloka, I will beg Krishna to let me go where you are. Your lotus feet is my spiritual world. This is how I feel your presence. This feeling is very true. As soon as I enter temple, during winters, if I see lots of flower petals at your lotus feet, my hand naturally removes them. As you might be feeling cold, I come and touch your cloth. If it's silk and you have thin chadar, and if you don't have cap, I feel cold myself and run to bring chadar to wrap you around. I don't know how you captured my heart, but you did, in such a way that it is only full of your love. Every day, I come and talk to you. You know that. I started this from when I was 10. You have heard all my complaints all my pains. Also my school friends fight. A devotee slipped in the stairs and we all kids laughed instead of helping him. And you have heard about my awards in school, my appreciation, and our kids' Harinam pastimes and all my daily services. Dadu, I did this today. Are you happy? I would ask, and you always smile back to me. I still ask you, and I always will. Every day when I ran to temple, I ran to talk to you. What happened whole day? You saved prasadam plate for me under your asan. When my grandma didn't, as some days she would be upset about me going to temple every day. If it wasn't for your love in my heart, I wouldn't be here. Despite all that I have been through in my life, which are beyond comprehension for many, you managed to keep this permanent smile on my face. Thank you for walking with me. I would cry, get tired, and stop talking to the deities. And you always pull me back. Thank you, Dadu, for holding my hands and never leaving me. Thank you for making this home for me. And I'm so glad I grew up being princess of your house. Even today when people ask me, are you going home? I say, no, I'm going from home. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. I love you.
Take the mask off. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutle Srimati Mir Vedanta Swaminiti Namne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Desatarine. So we are all sitting here today for one reason, that's Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada makes us a happy family, a big family. I just wanted to share this morning what I heard from my spiritual master in one of his classes just recently. And I think it might help a lot of us when we are searching for answers and we are searching for Srila Prabhupada and we think, Srila Prabhupada, where are you? If you are present physically with us today, things might be a little different. So what Gurudev said in his recent class was a real story that he narrated when Srila Prabhupada was here with us. One of his disciples, a Srila Prabhupada disciple, used to follow Srila Prabhupada every time. Wherever Srila Prabhupada went, he followed him. Any country, even within India, if from Calcutta to Delhi to Bombay. So whichever temple Prabhupada would go, this particular disciple would follow, even change countries, and would be with Prabhupada all the time. Would be like a groupie, I guess that's the word. And so Srila Prabhupada asked him, one day, what service have you done? And he said, I'm here, Prabhupada. I follow you everywhere. I go everywhere because I can't physically be separated from you. I'm always looking for you. And so Srila Prabhupada's answer is what probably is going to help a lot of us. The answer to him was, I have my deity in every temple, and that's where I am. He said, I'm present in my deity. And he said that actually to his own disciple. He said, I'm present in my deity. You don't need to be with me physically. You just come to me in my deity form and pray. And I will listen to you. I'm there for you. So then Srila Gurudev told us, he told us that if you ever have a prayer, if you can go to the altar to Krishna, but you can also go to Srila Prabhupada and go and ask for any particular desire that you might have, ask him, and he will bless you, that your desires will be fulfilled. Obviously, spiritual desire is a better one. So he actually went on to narrate that this particular devotee actually did go to Srila Prabhupada's deity and prayed for a material wish to be fulfilled, and it was sort of dovetailed into a spiritual one also. And his wish was fulfilled. So for all of us here, if we want to feel inspired, we go to Srila Prabhupada. I also want to narrate this story about how Srila Prabhupada touched my life. When I was like 4 years old, my grandparents had a shop in Fiji. I come from Fiji. And Srila Prabhupada visited that year to Fiji. And he was picked up by some Gujarati devotees whose shop actually happened to be directly across from our shop. So Srila Prabhupada went there, and he would take a walk in the mornings. And because Fiji was still not Krishna conscious, and so there were not many devotees there, they were looking for some families where Srila Prabhupada go do a home visit, like introduce him to the locals. And our shop was directly opposite where he was staying. So unbeknown to me, because I became devotee much later, I was told by my uncles and aunties that Srila Prabhupada actually spent a whole day in my shop, in my grandparents' shop, and I was 4-year-old that time, and my full-time residence was the shop. I used to play on the bags of potatoes and bags of rice and all that. We had a grocery store. So I'm 100% sure that I would have been there. But Srila Prabhupada actually talked to my grandmother all day, apparently. And he told her the life story about how he became a devotee, what challenges he was facing, all the ups and downs. And my grandmother, unfortunately, by the time I came to know this, she had left the planet. So I could not ask her for all the stories that Srila Prabhupada told her personally about how he became a devotee, about his challenges, about the Western boys who were accompanying him. He told her a lot of stories. He spent the whole day in our shop. The reason he did that was there were no devotees, no temple at that time. And so he was talking to the locals and his preaching. Srila Prabhupada every evening used to give these classes. And he gave these classes in a high school. And later on, I grew up and I taught at that high school. So when I went, and I actually went a student at that high school, and whenever I went to that school, I used to think I've seen it before. So I was able to understand. I do remember Srila Prabhupada giving a class, sitting on a chair. Okay, sure, thank you. Haribol. So he was giving the class, and I do remember attending Srila Prabhupada's class and kirtans. So my aunties and uncles, they were like teenagers when Srila Prabhupada came home. So they were like 18, 19, in their early 20s, 16-year-olds. And Srila Prabhupada would come and give a class. And they were so lucky. These youths of Fiji, Srila Prabhupada actually allowed them to come and touch his feet. Jai Haribol, I don't know, I'm only 4 years old, I can't remember touching his feet, but my auntie, she came and told me, I've touched his feet, and for her it was something normal, and she didn't call Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada or Swamiji, she called him Guruji. For them, he was Guruji, and up till today, she calls him Guruji. And all my uncles and aunties, they call him Guruji, because in Fiji there was no such thing as a sannyasi at that time, no such thing as a guru, like Swami or something like that. So they just made up their own title for him. So Srila Prabhupada was Guruji in Fiji when he initially came, and up till today my aunties call him Guruji. And they said, yeah, we touched his feet. And then they said, he wanted to send a telegram, and he came to our shop to send a telegram. He sent one of his boys. So I'm thinking, which one of his boys would it be? Because Tamal Krishna Maharaj, I think he came in the second visit. He wasn't in the first one. So I'm not sure which sannyasi, but they came to our shop, send the telegram. And in the second visit, they had, developed the Back to Godhead magazines. So they needed a truck. And guess who provided the trucks? Our shop had this truck, big truck for the groceries, and they just used it to distribute Srila Prabhupada's Back to Godhead magazines. And that uncle, he's still in Wellington, New Zealand, so he knows the story. And he knows Srila Prabhupada so well. He talks about Srila Prabhupada. And I thought how lucky we are that we were able to be touched by him. And these uncles, they like automatically, they're so religious and they love Krishna. And I think the result of that is probably I'm sitting here today and became a devotee because he touched our lives in that way. He personally came to our house and he made the devotees. I was surrounded with Gujarati devotees from that day onwards, and they were all Vaishnavas. And as a child, I would go upstairs and play, and they would teach me my first Danvats. I learned it from them, how to offer my Danvats. So really grateful to Srila Prabhupada. I mean, he's touched everybody's lives. He's just a miracle. He's a miracle. There's no other way that I can describe. Don't have a better word than that. That's just touched our world, our lives. And it just goes on and on. So thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for being in our lives. And please accept me as one of those fallen souls. I hope to be of some service to you and my Guru. And I do not desire for liberation. I just desire devotional service. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, we'll continue. We'll continue until Bhavananda Prabhu is ready to speak. There's a couple online offerings. Okay. So this is an offering from. So. Hare Krishna. So we'd like to request His Grace Bhavananda Prabhu to please come and share with us a bit about Srila Prabhupada for our benefit. This is it. Yep.
Where are all the men? Very good. Earning money to give to Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samani Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatyadi Satarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Well, of course, this day, the disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada from our what would you call material vision, from our sense vision, sense awareness, is a very sad but equally auspicious day, because it's a day that we can set aside to especially remember Prabhupada. Of course, when we say Prabhupada, we also mean Prabhupada and his activities. And his activities was ISKCON and his books. This was he considered his great accomplishments. understand a little bit about Prabhupada, we have to kind of understand what it was like when Prabhupada was here. Of course, all of you, unfortunately, most of you at least, did not have that experience. So really the main duty of Prabhupada's disciples should be glorifying and helping those who weren't here at that time to understand what it was like. And I've touched on this before, that, well, it was extraordinary. But at the time, we didn't realize how extraordinary, or at least I didn't. I can't speak for anyone else. I didn't realize how extraordinary it was, because we were all protected. You know this silly girl, oh no, erase that. This girl, Greta Thunberg, or whatever her name is, a climate change warrior. Her whole life, one would think, is around climate change. Someone else has another thing they're campaigning for, so what they're campaigning for, that becomes the center of their life. So for all of us, it was very sweet because we existed in the sphere of and the orbit of Prabhupada. Prabhupada was the center. That was our only concern. Not climate change, not veganism, not, oh God, you know, there's so many nonsense things. It was only Prabhupada. Our whole lives, or my whole life, and I think I'm speaking now for my God brothers and God sisters, our lives revolved around Prabhupada. Where is he? Is he here? Where is it? Waiting for letters from Prabhupada, waiting for a visit from Prabhupada. What does Prabhupada want? What does Prabhupada like? What does he like to eat? How does he like temple rooms? What, you know, everything. Everything you can think of was focused or centered on Prabhupada and his likes and dislikes. He had dislikes. There were some things he didn't like. When he told me once, they are saying now, I should not eat ghee and salt. He said, if I cannot eat ghee and salt, he said, I would rather die. So yeah, there were things he didn't like. He didn't like to be told what to do. When he yelled at me in 1971 in the quarantine, have I told this story before? In the quarantine hospital in Bombay, it was then Bombay, I always call it Bombay, you call it Mumbai, which is the correct, but Bombay. As many of you may know, Shyama Sundar Prabhu, his secretary, we were all with Prabhupada in Nairobi in Kenya. And we were flying, it was Diwali. And we were flying from from Nairobi to Bombay the next day. And off we went. And when we were going through immigration at the airport in Bombay, when they opened Prabhupada's passport, they asked, where is your yellow fever vaccination certificate? It wasn't there. It was a yellow card, maybe that big, that folded in half, and it showed that Prabhupada had his yellow fever vaccination in Calcutta. It was stamped in 65. Because if you went to Africa and tried to enter India and other countries from Africa, you had to have proof that you had a yellow fever vaccination. Otherwise, they put you in quarantine, much like today. Same thing. So, several points to be understood. Prabhupada was vaccinated. Very simple. It was necessary for the preaching. I don't know why everyone's making such a big to-do. Oh, Prabhupada got vaccinated and got on the Jaladuta and went. At that time, he was going to America. But somehow he knew, in the future, I may be in Africa. So anyway, he didn't have it, so he had to go into quarantine for, I think, 10 days. So I had my yellow fever, which I got in New York when Prabhupada called me to meet him in Bury Place. And then we went to Africa, and then... But I volunteered to stay with Prabhupada in the quarantine hospital. Now, why was I telling you that? Oh, yes. To show the... I don't know how to put it, but the human aspect of Prabhupada. That he had likes and... He wasn't some... He loved kachoris. We all know that. So he had likes, he had dislikes. And so that night, there was a long veranda, wide veranda with and these rooms. In a nice building, all like British colonial building, on the airport grounds, but way, way on the edge. So there were rooms and a window looking onto the veranda. And maybe it was 2 o'clock in the morning, I hear this voice, Bhavanand, Bhavanand. Prabhupada's voice was very deep. Isn't that one of the qualities of Krishna? He has deep voice, deep intelligence. You know. Prabhupada's voice is very deep. Bhavanand. And that voice, I wake up, I go out, pay my obeisances. Prabhupada's all upset. So Prabhupada would get upset. These are the points I'm making. He would get upset. He said, just now, I went to go out, there was a garden in the front of the building. He said, I went to go out in the garden to take a little walk. And they stopped me. There was a guard there. Wouldn't let Prabhupada out because it was all screened in. He said, do something. I said, Prabhupada, I said, they don't, you're in quarantine, so they're afraid if you go outside, you may be bitten by a mosquito. And that mosquito, if you have yellow fever in your blood, that mosquito will bite others and you'll have a pandemic, of course, I didn't, on your hands. Then it was done by mosquito, now it's just done by breathing. So, Prabhupada said, no. He said, I must have my walk. He said, if I do not go for my walk, I will not have an appetite. If I don't have an appetite, I won't eat. If I don't eat, I will grow weak and die. Do something. I said, Prabhupada, it's 2 o'clock. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. All this time he's towering over me. I'm on the. I said, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, there's nothing we can do now. He said, no, do something. He said, I am like a bird in a golden cage. He said, this building is nice, but I cannot go out. He said, my whole life I have never liked to be confined. So there. Prabhupada had dislikes. He didn't like to be confined. He didn't like to be told you can't eat ghee and salt. He had dislikes and he had likes. So he was yelling at me, do something. I said, he said, they are mistaken. I cannot be infected. I am pure. Then, and his eyes were blazing. Of course, he didn't have to wear a mask. His lip was quivering. He was angry. Then he said, all right, let us chant. Then we just walked back and forth, maybe the whole length of this room, chanting japa together, back and forth, back and forth. Everything was fine. Then the next day, by the way, just to bring this to a conclusion, this story, I don't want to leave you dangling. Prabhupada could have visitors. So he remembered, I got my yellow fever. No sign of Shyamasundar, by the way, during this whole thing. He was hiding out in Akashganga where the temple was. He said to Madhavisa Maharaj was there, he said, I got my yellow fever vaccination in Calcutta, so they would have a copy of it. So Madhavisa went to Calcutta, came back with a copy of the certificate, and they released Prabhupada. So that concludes that story. However, my point was the humanness, the perfect human, a perfect human. To my knowledge, which is limited, of course, I don't deny, but to my knowledge, Prabhupada never made a mistake. Can you imagine? How many mistakes we make, whether we like to admit it to ourselves or not. We make so many mistakes. But Prabhupada never made a mistake. And he was always concerned. Now I'm going to tell you a nice story which will pretty much wrap my little talk up, to show how I said in the beginning, Prabhupada considered his great accomplishments, number one, his books, the Bhaktivedanta purports, and number two, ISKCON. He was very proud, ISKCON, ISKCON. And so, of course, I was Prabhupada's servant in the last months of his stay here in this world. And I never thought, not for a moment, did I ever consider that Prabhupada would die or Prabhupada would leave his body. I never thought that. It never occurred to me. My whole, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, our whole consciousness was caring for him, making him comfortable, and trying different ways for him to recover so that he could continue his preaching and ISKCON as we knew it. It was all we knew. All we knew was Prabhupada and his society. That was our world, the world of ISKCON, with Prabhupada at the head. But this is, of course, this is just my surmisal. I'm not saying this is fact because certainly I don't know what Prabhupada was thinking. But I was caring for Prabhupada in March, April, when we left Mayapur and went to Bombay and in his new quarters. That's a whole other story that I won't go into now. But at that time, Prabhupada was not feeling well, but he was doing different things to recover whatever it was that was ailing him. So everything was very vital. Then he sent me back to Mayapur, and then he called me back from Mayapur to Vrindavan to care for him. And that's when all the GBC and all the devotees gathered. Then I went back to Mayapur, and then we were attacked by these Muslim farmers. And we ended up in jail and all that it was a whole big. Then Prabhupada was very concerned, and then we were released from jail after, I think, 10 days. And we heard Prabhupada was going to England. So Prabhupada was still preaching. I'm saying preaching, like World Acharya, traveling and preaching. So I went to, along with some other devotees, we went to Delhi, and Prabhupada was in the airport in the back of this car. He was lying down waiting for and some of the Prabhupada said, and they said it's Bhavanandi. Oh. So I went, and Prabhupada was lying crossways on the back seat of this car with a pillow behind him. So I grabbed his feet, paid my obeisances. Prabhupada said, "Come here." And he grabbed me and he pulled me up right on top of him. So I was here with our chest, and he was rubbing my back and saying, "Oh, my poor boy, are you all right? Is everything all right?" So that was nice. Then Prabhupada went off to on the plane. Very elegant. Geez, he was so elegant. Just naturally, not pretend, not posing. He never posed. He never pretended. But he was just naturally swan-like. He was elegant and graceful, even in a wheelchair, with his head up, beautiful nose, everything. So extraordinary. Such an exceptional, extraordinary person. So Prabhupada flew out, and we went back to Mayapur. Then Prabhupada came back, because obviously, apparently, he was too weak to actually travel. So he came back, they took him back to Vrindavan. He sent me a telegram, please come and care for me. So I joined Tamal and Bhakti Charu Maharaj and cared for Prabhupada. I never, as I said, I never thought, it was inconceivable to me, a world without him. And I think that could be said for all of us who were there. It was inconceivable. But it was not to be. But anyway, now I'll come to the high point. Prabhupada was totally conscious. He was so thin. And we were always turning him this way. He'd go like this. He'd lift his arm. And then he wanted to be turned from one side to the other side. He liked it when I did it because I was very strong and I didn't hesitate. I'll tell you a funny story. In 1977, also on the roof of the Lotus building, Prabhupada would spend he'd sit in the sun. In the winter in Mayapur, it rarely rained. He would sit in the sun and have his massage. Then he'd take his bath himself outside on a wooden chokey. And then he'd dress and put on tilak, say his Gayatri, and have his lunch, take a nap. That was his routine. So the first day he started that, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who had taken a vow, I'm never leaving Prabhupada. He told me, he said, I don't know how long Prabhupada will be here, but I intend to stay as his secretary forever. I said, all right. Anyway, Tamal started to give Prabhupada a massage. Prabhupada took his massage sitting. So Tamal was behind him and going like this. Prabhupada said, what is that? This is Tamal is telling me. What is that? He said, I'm giving you a massage, Prabhupada. Tamal said. Prabhupada said, that is not a massage. That is love pat. He said, get me Bhavanand. He knows how to massage. So they called for me. So that was like the beginning of my being Prabhupada's body servant. I was his left hand, he said, and Tamal was his right hand. Anyway, if I was there, which I was pretty much there constantly, turn him over. It must have been 2 days, at most 3 days before he left. So it would be like the 11th, probably the 12th of November. I was sitting on Prabhupada's bed massaging him. You know, he squeezed his legs, and Prabhupada asked someone, bring Jayapatak. So they got Jayapataka Maharaj. So Prabhupada's lying there. Jayapataka is sitting on the floor by Prabhupada's head, and I'm sitting on his side on the bed. It was just the three of us in his room. Prabhupada, now, again, I'm trying to paint a picture here. He was so thin, practically skeletal. You've seen pictures. This bone. He couldn't have been comfortable. That's impossible. But he never complained, ever. His main concern was, and these are pretty much, I can't recall him saying anything else. I don't know about Jayapataka Maharaj. I don't think he spoke to him after this. And I don't remember anything he said to me. Well, there is one thing. That night he said something to me. But his main concern was what? What do you think? I am concerned, he said, that after all that business at Mayapur, I want to know if you are both still enthusiastic to develop Mayapur. Now, if it were me, I'd be moaning and groaning and asking for my pills and give me this painkiller, that painkiller. Prabhupada, he was only thinking of his society and his projects and the Mayapur project. Were we still enthusiastic? That was his concern. Now understand, 2 days later, he left the planet. What would you and I, this is perfect human being, perfect. He was only concerned that we should still be enthusiastic to develop Mayapur. Of course, we assured him that we were, and he was relieved to hear that. He was relieved to hear that. So that's the kind of person he was. He was a person, but a perfect person. The perfection of a person, that was Prabhupada. So I've told this story before, but I'll end with this story because it shows me in a good light. So that's what's, for me, that's what's important. So that night, because these were the last words Prabhupada spoke to me. Prabhupada was lying on his back on his bed. And there was only one light on his desk which had a red cloth over it, so it was very dim in the room because the light bothered his eyes. And it was nighttime. I used to complain to Tamal, why do I always have to be on the shift to be in Prabhupada's room from 12 at night until 4 in the morning? You know, why don't you do it also? You know, why do I have to stay up all night? I was complaining. No, you're the body servant, I'm the secretary, I have to be there during the day if he... Tamal always had an answer. So I was sitting in a little chair at the foot of his bed. And I thought Prabhupada was resting, but I could see him, but Prabhupada opened his eyes and he said, "Who is that?" Because he couldn't, it was dim. I said, "It's Bhavananda, Srila Prabhupada." He said, "Oh, Bhavananda, don't ever leave me. Stay with me forever." Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All right? Who's next? I have to give up my chair. It's very comfortable.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for giving us an insight into Srila Prabhupada and his glories. We'll continue with the offerings. I'll read a few of them from online. So this is an offering from Nandini Mataji. Nandini Mataji. All glories to Shri Radha Gopinath. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for building temples all around the globe. No wonder, wherever we go, you have established a family to take care of us and guide us on this path of Krishna consciousness. You left India to spread Krishna consciousness in the West at the age of 70 years old. No jiva in this age of Kali can do this, but out of your unconditional love for us, you traveled. You are the sun who has shined your beam of knowledge through your books and has given us the association of Sadhu Sangha and Guru Parampara to flourish our lives with purpose and happiness. You have given us the most easiest and simplest way to attain Krishna Prema. Your contribution to our lives is priceless. Thank you so much, Srila Prabhupada. Forever indebted at your lotus feet, your insignificant servant, Nandini. There's also one more offering from online, from Natasha Mataji. Dearest Natasha, Dearest Srila Prabhupada, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to you. On your disappearance day, I want to express my utmost gratitude for everything you've done, all that you've created for so many. It will always be incomprehensible to me how you did so much and all the faith and trust you had in Krishna, especially in tough times. I wish I was able to meet you, even though somehow I feel like I have met you. I hope I can become a good example of Krishna consciousness and carry on your legacy even in even the smallest way. Please bless me and provide your mercy so that I can also go through tough times with faith and trust in Radha Gopinath like you had. Please let me also see that anything I go through is for my benefit with the same faith and trust in Radha Gopinath. Thank you so much for all the books you wrote. Reading and hearing your purports is my favorite way to practice my bhakti. Please let me always keep this desire and regularly hear and read your books. Please guide and protect me to make the right choices for my bhakti in my life. Thank you so much for engaging me in your service. Your servant, Natasha. So, that's it for the online offerings. If there are any other devotees here who'd like to come forward and provide an offering, any of the Prabhus?
Vrindavane Ramanareti Prasiddha Bhumo Tatrapi Krishna Balaram Supad Mule Kyanam Param Parama Krishna Sudurmityuktam Dantasudeva Prabhupad Namo Namaste. In the most holy land of Vrindavan, in Ramanreti, at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Balaram, you are preaching the topmost knowledge of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the fountainhead of religion. O Master of the senses, O my Lord, Srila Prabhupada, let me offer my obeisances unto you. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my respectful obeisances at your lotus feet. All glories to your divine grace. Though your physical presence amongst your followers lasted a short duration of time, what you left behind after your disappearance, divine disappearance from our vision, is veritably an everlasting treasure. a treasure that I hold most dearly to my heart. I was not fortunate to witness your presence physically, but through your legacy, I can just begin to imagine what kind of a transcendentally surcharged personality you are. Srila Prabhupada, I can say without any doubt, any reservation, and with tangible realization that the life I am presently leading is fully sustained by your causeless mercy. Most miraculously, I am sheltered within the Sri Sri Radha Gopinath temple, which is your house. Your temples give shelter to all around the world who seek refuge from the material energy. Since the owner of the house supplies hospitality to the guest, I can say that my material body has been sustained for the last decade by the food that you are providing me. The clothes I am able to wear is nothing but your mercy. If I require something for my bodily maintenance in the service of Krishna, I simply approach your representatives without hesitation or worry, confident that they will take care of me. A living entity cannot live without performing work, and therefore you have engaged me in the highest welfare activity, both for the masses and for myself. You are tactfully engaging and exhausting my youthful passion, which would otherwise have been terribly misdirected. I had heard that your spiritual master had said that fortunate is the person whose body ages and breaks down in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As persons, we need associates, relationships, and community. Dear Srila Prabhupada, you have given me the best association anyone who desires to advance in spiritual life could ever imagine. I increasingly feel your presence in the sincere devotees I live with day after day. You have intellectually satisfied me as well, Srila Prabhupada. You have presented a vast corpus of knowledge that withstands attacks and challenges like an impenetrable fortress. This knowledge is found in your books, which are the central pivot point of my life. I always love to read your books, and I endeavor to distribute them to others as my primary duty. My most heartfelt gratitude is not only for your sustaining my body and mind, but most importantly, my soul. The great treasure of Goloka, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, is the non-material vibration that supports and enhances all my spiritual realizations and endeavors. The list is endless, Srila Prabhupada. By your genius arrangement, I have only you to thank for each breath that I am able to take. If at all I could conclude, I could not do so without thanking you for the prime attraction of my life, the ultimate gift that you have given me, their lordships Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. I cannot imagine Krishna consciousness without them. It is said that Sri Nityananda Prabhu gave mercy to those who did not deserve it and to those who did not even desire it. In fact, he and his worshipable Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, ran after such people to distribute their mercy. As you being their pure representative, Srila Prabhupada, I can witness the same effect in my life. For all that you are giving me, it is incumbent upon me to dedicate my life to your eternal service. You have given me a reason to live for and a reason to die for. If by my insignificant endeavors I can bring even a smile to your face, I consider my life successful. Thank you for saving me, Srila Prabhupada. Your insignificant servant, Sriman Narasimha Das.
So,
Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my respectful obeisances at your lotus feet. It is a gentle tradition to lament on the departure of a person from this world. This is simply in a bodily platform. However, a pure Vaishnava's departure is not situated in the mundane platform, but it is an event that happens in the transcendental platform. As Bhaktichar Maharaj mentioned, just like a mother sometimes calls her toddler child by hiding herself from the vision of the child, so the child will try to climb and walk on his own with the eagerness to see the mother. Similarly, you are calling us by your transcendental sound recorded in your books by hiding yourself from our vision, so that we will grow up in Krishna consciousness. It is mentioned in CC that unless one is empowered by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one will not be able to spread the Sankirtan movement. You have spreaded Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement far and wide across the globe by establishing ISKCON. In the year 2013, before even coming in contact with ISKCON, I found your book named The Path of Perfection lying on the side of the street while walking. I immediately picked it up and read few pages and then secured it in my luggage. Now, after 8 years, I am staying here in the Association of Devotees, giving up all my foolish, sinful life. No wonder I am a product of your preaching. It is more proper to say that you picked me from the street by coming in the form of your book and brought me all the way up to here through your disciples. This is the proof that you are always living in your books and continuing your preaching as an empowered servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Dear Prabhupada, on this auspicious day, I seek your blessings to engage me for assisting you and your disciples for spreading Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Your indebted servant, Achyuta Aravinda Akshudas.
Path of perfection. Okay, well, any other devotees would like to come forward and offer? Okay, I'll read mine. Dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept my respectful obeisances at your lotus feet. Once, Jayapataka Maharaj shared a little pastime. Once a senior disciple asked you in 1971, Srila Prabhupada, when I look back at my life, I don't see any pious activities, I don't see any penances, I don't see anything, except I had a very sinful life. How did I achieve devotional service? Srila Prabhupada, you said, I have made your good fortune for you. I have made your good fortune for you. You made my good fortune, Srila Prabhupada. You saved so many souls from spiritual suicide. Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharane. I am fortunate to be counted as one of them. Seeing those who did not get the mercy, I wonder how is it that I was able to grab onto it. You are the embodiment of the verse Vyavasayatmika Buddhi and the purport Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote, mentioning that the instruction of the spiritual master should be taken as one's life and soul. You dedicated your whole life to the instructions of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. You spent your life energy in writing your Bhaktivedanta purports and preaching Krishna consciousness all over the world. I wish to follow your footsteps and become a conqueror like you. Desiring to follow in the footsteps of Arjuna, you preferred to die on the battlefield fighting Maya. Until your last breath, you were engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness. I wish to read a section of a purport you wrote for Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Text 37. The word kriyasu, meaning by manual labor or by work, is important in this verse. One should engage in practical service to the Lord. In our Krishna consciousness movement, all our activities are concentrated upon distributing Krishna literature. This is very important. One may approach any person and induce him to read Krishna literature so that in the future he also may become a devotee. Such activities are recommended in this verse. Kriyasu yas Twach Charanaravindayo. Such activities will always remind the devotees of the Lord's lotus feet. By fully concentrating on distributing books for Krishna, one is fully absorbed in Krishna. This is samadhi. How can I ignore this? You told Bhakti Charas Swami Maharaj, for so many lifetimes you have been trying to enjoy, and you can see that you are still not satisfied. So just offer this life to Krishna. So then I pray for your mercy that I may follow in your footsteps and instructions. I had offered this life to your service, and I would like to rededicate myself once again. Please allow me to be part of your Sankirtan party and to be an instrument in your preaching as your book distributor. Your servant, Kamsari Senadas. So we'll have Kirtan, and they'll be preparing the Bhoga offering for Srila Prabhupada now.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Last mantra.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hari Naam Sankirtan ki.
So now we're going to have the Pushpanjali. We get somebody to kindly come forward. Yeah. So Prabhu, can you come and distribute the flower petals? So we'll be offering flowers to Srila Prabhupada. This is Pushpanjali. We'll be chanting the Mangala chant together, and every time we're going to. Okay, let's start with this. Distribute. You're going to be getting flowers. Make sure you split them into 3. So every time I say Esha Pushpanjali, we're going to offer 1/3 of our flowers. We're going to do it 3 times. So when I chant Esha Pushpanjali, we'll offer flowers to Srila Prabhupada. So we'll be doing it 3 times. Don't offer all your flowers at once. Split them into 3 and we'll offer them 3 times. Okay, so while it's being distributed, we'll start with the Mangala Charan. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Now we're going to chant Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra, and I will chant Esha Pushpanjali and we'll offer the flowers to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. So we'll chant this mantra again and I'll chant Esha Pushpanjali. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Esha Pushpanjali. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we'll repeat this again for another 2 times. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Esha Pushpanjali. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Esha Pushpanjali. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada's Tirobhav Mahamotsav Ki Jai.
What singing?
Shri Guru Charan
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kabala Bhakati Shadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kabala Bhakati Shadma Bandamoi Shabadhana Mate Bandamoi Shabadhana Mate Jahar prasade bhai Ei bhavatariya jai Hey Bhavatariya Jai Krishna Prapti Hai Jaha Haite Krishna Prapti Hai Jaha Haite Guru Mukha Padma Baika Chittete Koriya Oika Guru Mukha Padma Baika Chittete Koriya Oika Arna Kariha Mane Asha Arna Kariha Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha जय प्रसादे पुरे सर्ववासा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञाने हृदय प्रकाशिता दिव्य ज्ञाने हृदय प्रकाशिता प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेद गाय जहाँ चरिता वेद गाय जहाँ चरिता श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनार बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनार बंधु लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवाना लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवाना हा हा प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पद छाया हा हा प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पद छाया एवे जश घुषुक त्रिभुवाना एवे जश घुषुक त्रिभुवाना श्रील प्रभुपाद पतित पावना श्रील प्रभुपाद पतित पावना जया प्रभुपादा 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 जया प्रभुपादा जय जय गुरुदेव 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 नीताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनीति नामिने Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Paschata Deshotarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Binda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hey! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राज आचार्य अष्टादश श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की नित्य नील प्रविष्टम जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राज आचार्य अष्टादश श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी ठाकुर की जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ प्रभुगान की जय प्रेम से कह श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वितीय गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तविंद की जय जय ब्रजमय वृंदावन धाम की मायापुर नवदीप धाम की एक चक्र धाम की लीला प्रिषतम जगन्नाथ प्रिषद धाम की जय चारिधाम की चार्याचार्य विंद की हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय जय राधा गोपीनाथ जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रमाई गौणिते पंचतत्व भगवान की जय जय कृष्ण बलराम राधा श्याम सुंदर भगवान जय जय मायापुर राधा माधव अष्टश्री बिंद पंचतत्व भगवान की गंगा माई की जमुना माई की वृंदे देवी तुलसी महारानी की भक्ति देवी की Nitai Gaur Pramanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guranga Gauranga Srila Prabhupada. Jai Tirubhav Tithi Prabhupada Mahamahosab ki.
Anyone can come forward and sing.
Jayo Radha Gopi Jayo Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Sri Radhe Jayo Radha Gopinath Radha Gopinath Sri Radhe Jayo Radhe Jayo Radhe Jayo Radhe Jayo Sri Radhe Jayo Radhe Jayo Radhe Jayo Radhe Jayo Sri Radhe